Hi, I'm Jason Gorber from thatshelf.com, and we're here to talk about when you finish saving the world.
Big shelf.
So welcome to our coverage of 2022's Sundance International Film Festival. I'm not in Park City as much as I would like to be. It's been now the second year that they've gone virtual. They've put most of the films online. There was just a couple that actually pulled out at the last minute, as it were. And this one was always going to be one of the sort of big premieres. A24 often brings some of their quirky, interesting, well-realized characters pieces in terms of fiction. And so you get some incredibly exciting films often. And this one definitely was on a lot of people's buzz list. This is Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut. He's, as an actor, has been to Sundance for many, many films. For 2 decades now, he's sort of been playing this sort of very specific kind of awkward, reticent character. And it's interesting because having interviewed him a couple times, he really sort of is that guy, but it's also clearly his shtick. So it's interesting how he can sort of merge that into some of his writing. This started as a kind of not an audiobook, but some sort of audio journey for Finn Wolfhard, and then Eisenberg expanded it into a film script, and he had Julianne apparently in mind all along, as he said. It's funny how these people write these things and say, "Oh, this is the actress I had in mind." I'm sure they don't say otherwise. It's like, oh, I had this actress in mind or actor in mind, but, we couldn't get them, so we'll get this person instead. Nonetheless, the film is this really kind of engaging, interesting, awkward, obnoxious, yet beautiful and moving portrait of this very quirky son and this mother who, both of whom mean really well, and as the father puts it, are incredibly narcissistic. They're sort of blind to all of those around them. And it's this collision between sort of being part of a family, almost forced to be part of a family, the sort of growing adolescent that hasn't quite lived up to the expectations of the mom, and the mom who looks elsewhere for the satisfaction that maybe she doesn't feel within herself. Her awkwardness absolutely reflected in that of her son. The way that the dynamic plays out is really interesting. You keep sort of waiting for some sort of grand dramatic element, something that sort of goes beyond the same thing that would probably happen on a television drama. But what's remarkable is there's a general restraint here. Yeah, there's moments that almost make your skin crawl about the dynamic between the two of them, and yet it feels incredibly real. It's definitely this notion of what they're both sort of allowing themselves to sort of be striving towards. It's this fascinating dynamic, and one that I haven't really seen articulated quite as sincerely and effectively on screen before. The performances are great. I haven't watched Stranger Things. I know many people are a big fan, but Julianne Moore is a goddess. For as long as I've sort of been watching movies, I've just been astonished how often she's able to completely transform herself. She's yes, there's certain tics that she has, but she's able to completely bring her roles to life in ways that are just frankly magical. I know many other actors and actresses get plenty of attention. She's certainly got her fair share of awards, but in a funny way, how is it possible? But Julianne Moore is somewhat underrated. It's pretty phenomenal what she does here. She easily could have come across as cold and unfeeling, and that fine line between being engaged in the character but recognizing its foibles, and yet she absolutely nails it. Finn's role in some ways is equally challenging, but still a little bit simpler because we can excuse some things as adolescent excess or his ignorance of being something that can overcome because he still has time to do so. But some of her baked in prejudices, her quirks, her proclivities are absolutely just her character, and the way that it comes across, the fact that we still find a shared humanity in this really impressively drawn character that you don't like all the time is pretty phenomenal. I think of her in Shortcuts. I mean, everybody knows Lebowski and stuff like that, but I think of her role in Shortcuts that also threaded that very, very thin line, and just absolutely just it's one of those performances that we just got to jump up and celebrate how fantastic she is as a performer. I think Eisenberg sort of injects enough of his personality into this film to make it truly engaging, but very much sort of shoots it in a relatively straightforward way. But Alyssa's phenomenal performances is clearly that this is an actor's film in the best of ways, and really draws us in. The supporting characters also sort of elevate everything in very interesting ways. And yeah, it's a quiet film. It's one of those gentle things that sort of creeps up on you a little bit. And it's exactly the kind of indie stuff that, frankly, Sundance has for decades been celebrated for. It's that slightly offbeat, sideways project. And it doesn't feel like something that's just going to be shoved off on streaming. Not that there's not amazing things that show up on streaming, but nonetheless, the fact that it has A24 behind it really does sort of establish it as one of the core sort of indie films of the year. As I said, A24, I don't know if they or how they make any money, but they keep making films that just sort of just nudge just a little bit at the edges, that they're still incredibly watchable. There's nothing in here that is so disturbing or out of the normal that just, more general film goers can't engage in it and think that they're actually getting something a little bit more rich than many of the other blockbusters that maybe many of them are accustomed to. At the same time, the art house crowd can absolutely find elements here to embrace. Absolutely. I don't think that one should be afraid that this is somehow some sort of mainstream selling out thing by some actor doing a passion project, or simply because he's rich and famous and can get away with this. This really does feel truly cinematic. I love that Emma Stone is on as one of the producers as well. Her and Eisenberg have worked together before, but again, her putting her convictions behind this and becoming a full producer on this, I think is fantastic. I also think she's, like Jesse, is a performer who has carved out an incredibly interesting niche, sort of films that a lot of people watch, a lot of people sort of may overlook. This is one of those films that I think is definitely worth going for. And what a terrific start to Sundance. It's really, really fun, really, really engaging, incredibly awkward, almost making, as I said, making your skin crawl at times, but thoroughly compelling all the way throughout. So there we are. Thanks so much for watching. There'll be plenty more to come. For thatshelf.com, I'm Jason Gorber. Thanks so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments what you think. Please subscribe, spread the word, and we will see you next video. All the best. Take care.